topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, California. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great show for you today. You know, this is kind of a sore subject, but when you can bring an expert on that can alleviate a lot of the problems when it comes to owing taxes or not filing your taxes. In fact, we just got a text right before the show, which I'm going to start off with that. But let me introduce you to our experts. Ryan Campos, he's the CEO of Federal Tax Law Group, and Rachel, she is an enrolled agent, and we will get into what an enrolled agent is. Hey, welcome, both of you.
Hi, Steve.
I am so glad to have you because I know I've had friends of mine who've had tax problems, and it's really a burden, even within the family, when you have tax problems. But the great news is you have a company that can help fix those problems and take all those pressures off.
Yes, we do.
Ryan, let's start off with you. Tell us about Federal Tax Law Group, how long you've been in business, and tell us all about the company.
Well, I've been helping clients for over 15 years. So with Federal Tax Law Group, we've been in business for over 7 years, and we help individuals and businesses that owe money to the IRS and the state. So we do specialize in that niche where people typically have back due taxes. They have several years of unfiled returns. So we really work to get our clients up to date and compliant and get them into one of the IRS programs so they can either make payments, get a settlement, or something of that sort, depending on each individual or business's financial situation.
We got a text right before the show. Facebook and iHeart promote the show coming on. I really felt bad. A gentleman from Sacramento saw the show was going to be coming on today, and he said, I haven't paid my taxes in 2 years or filed. Can the IRS also come after my wife?
I'll let you answer that one, Rachel.
Yes. Well, if they haven't filed a tax return, then it's hard for the IRS to begin collecting. And if the IRS does take a step forward in preparing a tax return on his behalf for the lack of non-filing, they would file that tax return as single. So essentially, if a tax return is not filed married filing joint with that wife's Social Security number listed, it's safe to say that a majority of the burden would fall on the primary.
Okay. I want people to understand that you have a whole area of ways that you can help people. Everybody's different. Everybody's not the same. And I am telling you that if you contact Federal Tax Law Group, and first of all, you don't have to talk to the IRS anymore, do you?
Correct. Once we do file power of attorney for a client, then at that point, we would be the company or professional dealing with any communication directly with the IRS.
Now, I guess a big question is people ask, how long does it take to resolve tax problems and get tax relief? That has got to be the biggest question people have.
Go ahead, Rachel.
It is a case by case scenario. Like you said, every case is different as far as how many missing returns need to be filed to get the account filing compliant, the extent of the documentation that we need to compile a financial analysis to be submitted. Simpler cases can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months, assuming that the taxpayer already comes on board compliant with their filing. It takes a little bit longer when it's a matter of missing returns that need to be compiled and processed. Typically, the IRS can take 8 to 12 weeks to process a tax return is kind of the timeline that they're running. So some cases, like I said, can take 3 to 4 months. Some cases can take an upward side of 9 months to a year. And certain programs, especially an offer and compromise program, as far as a settlement, I know they're taking anywhere between a year and a half to even get a determination. So again, it's best to give us a call so we can do a free consultation, so we can just get the specifics of each case individually.
Ryan, I know customer service is very important to your company. We have other tax relief companies in other parts of the country. And so I read a lot of the Yelp and feedback from other companies. And I got to tell you, I see so many negative things out there. Once they got your money, they don't get phone calls returned. I have not seen one. I mean, I'm not saying there's not any, but I have not seen, with all the research we did, one negative anything about your company.
Well, we do pride ourselves in maintaining excellent customer service, maintaining communication with each and every client. As Rachel was saying, these cases can take a long time. So at times, customers can get a little frazzled when they don't hear anything, because it's not like it's a overnight process, or you hire us and then from there within a week the problem's resolved. Typically these take time. So we do try to make sure that realistic expectations are set for clients. That is going to take some time, but it is going to be handled. And then from there, throughout the process, we do try to make sure we're communicating with them in order to make sure that they know what's happening and what the next steps are.
Yeah, that's real good. You know what? Also, people said, I could probably just handle this myself. Well, first of all, try getting the IRS on the phone and see the amount of hours you're on hold for. They're not going to have that problem. You don't have that kind of problem getting hold of the IRS.
No.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I was going to say we have, that's our job. When they come on board and they sign that power of attorney, we take on that burden of, calling the IRS, spending countless hours on hold, like you're saying. And I've even had clients specifically try to call the IRS and then realize that it was a bigger problem and harder than they ever imagined. And they came back apologizing, like, I'll let you do your thing. Just because you sit on hold, for an hour or so, you get a representative who is not knowledgeable, or a representative that transfers you to a unit that you didn't need to go to. And then it's a matter of being transferred all over the place, or there's a lot of times where the calls drop. But with a team of tax professionals, I mean, we're here 8 hours plus calling the IRS on their behalf.
I just got a text here. Someone listening to the show in, I guess, Orange County, and they want to know, they said, this is amazing. I've just found your show by mistake. I hired one of those companies you were talking about, and they never would get back with me. I'm glad to hear that you have a company that gets back with their clients, and I'll be listening and calling. Let's do this while give everybody your phone number.
Sure. For those listening, not watching, it's 800-881-7659.
Okay, and we'll be also repeating this at the end of the show. And if you're watching us right now, we're scrolling that phone number across the monitor. Rachel, what documentation is needed for tax resolution company to complete and resolve a tax problem?
Documentation can stem from all of the income documents. If taxpayers don't have those readily available, that is something that a tax professional can pull or obtain through the IRS. Again, depending on the complexity of the case, some cases may not require documentation to reach a resolution, but more complex cases, simple documents would be bank statements, pay stubs, housing expenses, so that we can support the financial the financial analysis that we're submitting to the IRS.
So now, what if a taxpayer doesn't have all the necessary paperwork to file unfiled tax returns? Can you help them still?
Yes, like I just said before, there is a portal, so to say, with tax professionals that the IRS, we can obtain wage and income transcripts, pretty much any income documents that were reported under their Social Security number for the specific tax year. And with that documentation, we can compile a tax return. The only thing that the taxpayers would just have to be diligent in keeping their records if they're self-employed individuals, and things such as expenses and deductions on their tax returns. Unfortunately, we cannot generate for them. But as far as the income documents, we can obtain that to complete a missing return.
We just got another text from Phil in San Diego. He wants to know, all I hear about are these 80,000 new agents. Is the IRS tougher now than they have been in the past?
I do think that they are tougher in the sense that some of the older representatives were a little bit more lenient in the resolution process. I do believe that these 80,000 agents were hired for collection and auditing. So they just have a different goal in mind, which is more of recouping, money from taxpayers for their taxes, instead of really being lenient with the resolution.
What if a person has a CPA? Now, your business, you concentrate on people who haven't filed, who owe back taxes. Wouldn't it be better to use a company like yours that specializes in this rather than, say, a CPA?
Yes. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, absolutely. You definitely want a specialist just with any sort of thing you're hiring somebody for. CPAs, tax preparers, they're great, but typically I'd say about 95% of the CPAs or accountants that we come across, they're not used to handling these types of cases. So they're used to filing your returns, getting your W-2s, your 1099s, preparing it, and then submitting it to the IRS. And that's probably about 98% of their business. It's very rare that you have any CPAs or accountants that don't specialize in resolution that really do it. You may have one that once in a blue moon, they'll call to set up a payment plan on something very small. But for the most part, people that are out of compliance don't have the money to pay back what they owe. Typically, they don't know what to do, let alone settlements, CNC cases, or anything more complex like a bank levy or wage garnishment. So it's very important to know somebody that knows what they're doing to help you out.
How many times do you get a client or potential client that has been talking to the IRS themselves and really caused themselves more trouble by some of the ways they answered the IRS questions? That must make your job even harder.
It is common. I'm noticing that the IRS in present day is reaching out to taxpayers more than ever directly. And I'm assuming it's to do exactly what you're saying, kind of back a taxpayer into the corner. A lot of taxpayers aren't even aware of their taxpayer rights when it comes to the collection process.
Yeah.
So they do end up out of nervousness and being scared, when an IRS agent calls you, giving up information that they otherwise don't need to, or just talking more than needed, which does put them in a worse position. Usually after they have that conversation, they call us for help. Is how it works.
Now, Rachel, you're an enrolled agent. Tell people what an enrolled agent is.
So I did obtain my license through the IRS. An enrolled agent is a power of attorney. That Form 2848 is a power of attorney form. Being an enrolled agent gives me unlimited practice rights as far as representing a taxpayer and resolving their account. Enrolled agent in the eyes of the IRS is equivalent to a CPA or a tax attorney. These three enrolled agents, CPAs and tax attorneys, are the only ones that can get on a power of attorney and represent you for resolution purposes.
Oh, okay. Ryan, can you explain how you charge for your service?
Absolutely. So each case is different. So our fees are a flat fee based off the amount of work involved in the case. So that's why on every single case that we bring on, we actually do a transcript analysis where we actually pull all the records because we want to see the facts of each and every case so we know exactly what has to be done. So instead of guessing or guesstimating what may be the cost, we look at the actual facts, and based off of those, based off the amount of returns that have to be prepared, based off the amount owed and the level of the case, whether it's in collections, there's a wage garnishment, bank levy, or if there's a revenue officer, that all helps us determine what it's going to cost. So after a brief consultation and pulling the transcripts, we'll be able to let you know exactly what it's going to cost from start to finish to handle the case.
I know I said this in the beginning of the show, but I really want to repeat it because we've been doing this for 12 years and we really do our due diligence. And I got to tell you, I am so impressed, Ryan, with your company. Your company has such a great reputation of helping people. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of them out there who don't have the same qualifications as you do.
Thank you. And we do try to, like I said, staff ourselves with very intelligent people that are well versed in resolution. Because again, just being a CPA or enrolled agent doesn't necessarily mean that you have the experience. So we try to make sure that we have the people that are very knowledgeable and that know to work their way with the IRS. They know what needs to be presented and how it needs to be presented to the IRS in order to get clients the most favorable outcome.
What about if a person has to go to trial? How do you help them there?
Well, we do have attorneys on staff that can help with that. Typically, though, I would say, and you probably agree, Rachel, probably the majority of cases don't ever make it to tax court. So
Okay.
in certain cases where maybe it's a criminal case or things of that nature, it may lead to that, but the majority of them are handled through one of the compliant programs through the IRS. And at worst, many times it's handled either through the collections department or through a revenue officer. Would you agree with that, Rachel, or is there anything you want to elaborate on that?
No, I do. And then even if there was a petition for tax court, there is like a specific unit before you actually get on the docket for a tax case where they give you the opportunity to present information and achieve a resolution before going to tax court.
But you're basically there from start to finish.
Correct.
And something else I want to bring up too. For those of you who open those letters up and not just stick them in the file, a lot of times what the IRS says you owe, you really don't owe that much, and your company will determine that. Isn't that correct?
That is correct because, when a tax return is filed late and a payment is not made, so it's late, there is a slew of penalties and interest that are added to that tax balance. And that's where the clients are like, I don't owe this much. But it is the tax balance plus the penalties and interest, where there are programs that we can request for the penalties and interest to be abated based on the specific facts of the client's case. But there is relief to remove those added costs and just ultimately settle for the tax due.
Got another text here. This is from Jonathan in Sacramento again. This is a different one, but Sacramento. And actually, I got two of them. They both want to know, what is Fresh Start?
So Fresh Start, that's referring to some of the different programs that the IRS has put in place. So a lot of companies will refer to them as the Fresh Start initiatives or Fresh Start IRS programs. And basically, it's going to include a handful of programs. It's going to include the offer in compromise, which is where we settle with the IRS for a smaller amount. So in a nutshell, the way that works, once we look at the client's financials, we look at their income, their expenses, and assets, we calculate an amount to offer them to settle for. So they clearly need to qualify. So if they have a lot of money or they have assets that are well above what's owed, they may not qualify. But for those clients that don't have that and that do meet the requirements, in many cases, we can actually qualify them for settlement to reduce what's owed. There's also what's called a penalty abatement. So that's where we negotiate penalty and interest that's been assessed to the account. And then there's the installment agreement where we can structure monthly payments on the balance. So that's where, again, we look at their income, their expenses, and then we determine something that's reasonable that they can afford to pay monthly. That way they're not trying to take half their paycheck or leave them in a position where they can't afford to pay their other monthly bills. And then another great one that I really like is currently non-collectible, which they'll refer to as CNC. And that's where we, again, look at their financials. We take their income, their expenses, and assets. And then from there, if they show that they're really not in a position to pay anything back, we can put them in that hold status until the statute of limitations expire. Because the clients, or actually the IRS only has a certain period of time to collect on the debt, which is typically about 10 years from when they actually accrued the debt. So there's certain things that can extend that period, but the standard practice is about 10 years. And what we can do is keep them in a certain status based on the statute of limitations, where in many cases they won't pay any debt back. So that's great for a lot of our senior citizen clients, people that are on fixed incomes, disabled vets, things of that nature, where they're only making a certain amount of money per month. They can only stretch it so far. There's really not many assets or things like that that give them the ability to pay the debt back. So a lot of times we'll put them in that status. And then at that point, once the debt expires, they pretty much get out paying nothing. So it's a really nice program, especially for a lot of our people that are in a hardship situation.
This is from Kathy in Malibu. She said, I see all these commercials where people pay pennies on the dollar. Is that really true?
I can answer that. So again, yes, it is true. There are many clients that get that, but again, you need to qualify for it. So we go back in, we need to be able to present your financials, show you're in a bad financial situation where you can't afford to pay back the full debt. And again, key thing is that you don't have the assets. So you're not sitting on $1 million home with a lot of equity, or you don't have $1 million in the bank or things of that nature. These are all things they're looking at. So just like if you're qualifying for a home loan, they want to make sure you have the ability to pay it back and that you have the income and the assets to do so. Well, it's the vice versa here with tax debt. They want to see that you don't have the money to pay it back. They want to see that you're really in a hardship, and that in many cases that things are going to remain similar for the near future, where you're not just laid off for 2 weeks and then you're going to get a job where you're making $100,000 again a year very shortly. So these are all different factors when they're analyzing a case, which we're very good at. We know what the IRS is looking for, and through a free consultation, we'll be able to help determine typically which route we're going to take with you, and if we can help you out, and if you have a good case.
We're coming to the end of the show. I want to ask, first of all, let's give everybody your phone number.
Absolutely. Our toll-free number you can call to get a free consultation is 1-800-881-7659. Again, that's 800-881-7659. And if you'd like, you can also visit our website for more information, which is www.federaltaxlawgroup.com. And there's a lot of good information there on the different programs in our company, which again also has our phone number, which you can use to call.
And Ryan, what if someone's going through an audit? Do you all assist them if they're going through this audit?
Yeah, we can definitely help them out with an audit. So if they're already in the process of an audit, we can assist them with that. So we have professionals here that can pick it up, or if they're getting notices that letting them know that they are going to get audited, we can pretty much get in front of that, get in contact with whichever IRS representative we need to, and then start working with the client to present information that might be necessary for the audit to defend them as far as any things that are in question.
Well, we're doing California today, but if you've got a family member or a friend, doesn't matter what part of the country they're in, tell them about today's show. They can go to iHeart under Ask the Experts. They can go to YouTube, but they can actually watch the show again. And Ryan and Rachel will be back again with us next month. We had so many more questions for you, but I wanted to get these people texting in. Ryan and Rachel, great job, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for having me.
You too, buddy. What a great company. If you're having any tax issues, don't try to handle it yourself. Give Federal Tax Law Group a call, 800-881-7659, and I'm telling you, they will be able to help you. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we have our next expert. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests. Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.